welcome to a seat at the table. It's a very troubling time for the country. We can say that based on the facts that there are many who are suffering. Those who suffer from the pandemic of what we consider COVID 19. But we also have those who have suffered for 400 years that are now standing up. There's an uprising, and in spite of the effects of COVID 19, the Black community has decided that we are not going to be moved, that this is the moment, this is the time. George Floyd, Sandra Bland, Ahmaud Arbery, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, all will not have died in vain, and this is the moment to let the community and the world know. The world is standing up at this moment. Are you? Are you taking the time to stand up? Are you taking the time to make your voice be heard? Are you posting with a purpose? It is this moment. And there is an undeniable fact that why are we watching lynchings in 2020? We need to think about this. Look at the type people that are being tolerated and what they have to say in their attempt to literally lynch a Black man in 2020. We all ask and pause, but prepare yourself. For this is the moment to be real about your thoughts, your feelings, and your prepared and readiness to see those impacts on our culture that have continued for 400 years, including this week.
Keep talking.
Yeah. We're watching.
Go. Let him go. Please, let him go.
You're watching. The individuals are there working to secure and prepare a real live lynching, or offended by those who are hope and help, both hope and help, to prepare. Our brother at Be Heard, period.
Go. Let him go. Please, let him go. Please let him go. We're going to as soon as you let him go.
You go.
I'm going to.
You go. Gotta get the fuck out of here.
Let him go.
Get your phone out of here and go.
Let him
Shake
go.
your head at me.
Let him go.
Get the fuck out of here.
What do you really want to call me?
Do it, you nappy-headed bitch.
What do you want to call me?
About this? You with your 5 white friends? You happy with your 5 white friends? You guys started all this shit. Fuck you. Put it in your fucking film, bitch. Film it all. Fuck you.
That's Human Rights Commissioner Vox Booker, who they have pinned to the tree, waiting for a noose to be made. See, when police arrived, they made no arrest at all. Matter of fact, they were adamant about it. No, we need these white racist punks off the street before they do to someone else what they wish they could have did to him.
It is at this moment, at this time, we ask ourselves, could that have been you or I? Could this have been what we saw? Where were the real police? And why? When we're being assaulted and murdered, the consideration for arrest when the perpetrator is not Black and it is not Black on Black crime, why must we wait? The police came, made no arrest. Do you think this is justified? Is this Black Lives Matter? Who was the police officer? Why wouldn't he arrest these individuals? What's the rationale of that Bloomington police force as it relates to the lives of African Americans today? At the seat of the table, we ask this question. We ponder the reality of African Americans, what they must live through, why they feel different. The governor said he's going to investigate. While we're waiting, he's appalled, but why was it the police officer? We ask ourselves, we wonder why we feel differently when we see blue lights, when we're outnumbered. We ask ourselves why we distrust so many outside of our community. And then we're angry without a rationale. For now, we have to wait for those who were supposed to protect and serve, who decided to let the commissioner down, the Human Rights Commissioner that they were about to lynch. How is this possible in 2020? Well, we know it is based on George Floyd. We know that it is a case where the miscarriage of justice happens far too often. We interviewed yesterday the very state senator who is from Indiana, who was at a protest, and the entire community was mixed. It was both. And yet they did not face zero opposition. There were those who wanted them to go home. This is not a moment for us to back down. This is a moment for us to move forward with our truth. The truth is, there are moments that we as a community have to move forward, to take this opportunity to get smarter about this society. Your seat at the table is where you choose to sit, how you choose to operate, how you choose to invest in the wealth of your family and your future, how you choose to understand that you are the titan of your ship, and that you must have a preparedness and readiness for all assaults that are planned and unplanned that will come your way. This pandemic is another one of such effort. The pandemic is one of those moments that we find ourselves having to be ready to deal with all of the onslaught, unfair, unprosecuted attacks on our community. We're still waiting for the killers. We're looking for those individuals to come to justice. We're still wondering why Louisville can justify killers being allowed to be out and free. This is not the moment. When you think about Senator Eddie Milton, committed, driving 3 hours away from his district to a college town of all places, where the lights, camera, and action of education was supposed to be taking place. Instead, the attempted lynching of a Black man is taking place. How could this be possible? What would make us believe that this is the life that we should be forging for our community? It is this moment at the seat of the table. Where will you sit? Will you sit on the side of uprising? Have you supported those who are in the movement? Have you chose to post in a way that would allow our community to be heard? It is important that we resurrect ourselves and understand that this is the moment to study, to understand what it is to organize, how you're going to approach getting not just yourself, but someone that you know that hasn't voted lately and is already registered. There are far too many on the registration rolls that are registered but don't vote. Find a few, bring them to the polls with you, invite them, plan your Zoom voting party so that you know on that day that you are an organizer. Develop your organizing skills. Allow your community to understand that you are an organizer. It is this moment that we're all requesting our seat at the table. There are corporations that have made pledges to make a difference in our community. But we ask for transparency so we can see who's sitting at the table. We don't want any surprises. We don't want any surprises that will affect our community. We don't want the rules to be changed as it relates to engagement. This is our moment for our community to move forward. We must also look at opportunities to invest in our community so that we can have a seat and a louder voice at the table. Here we are preparing for an election, the census to be counted, and yet we still have to worry about being lynched and killed by the very officers or the community that says that they believe in freedom and justice for all. And yet we're still asking and demanding now a seat at the table, a seat for all of us to understand what it means so that our children don't have many of the anxieties, angst that we all suffer from when we think about what it is that this young man had. I want to know just what it means. And we must go to another video right now. Making a conversation for that moment.
See if he answers. Hey, shit, real quick. I think we can make this deadline if they just send me the song. I'll add it tonight or in the morning or whatever, and we be good.
I'm working on it, but
It's all good.
working on it. I ain't gonna. We all right. We all right on the time. We gonna get it done. Working on it. We gonna get it done though. I ain't gonna. It's gonna basically be the same thing in the same length from what I know and everything. So
Okay.
you ain't gotta work on edits or anything. Just gotta insert it.
All right, done. All right. Peace.
Oh shit, they tear gas. Hey, it's real. I stole it from the police. I stole the police horse.
Police reported ahead.
The devil just trying to be seen. You can't be falling asleep. That should have turned to a nightmare now. Soon as you pop up in your dreams, I had to turn to a fiend. That shit turned me
Beats on the streets and I go. Beats on the streets and I. Beats on the streets and they know. Beats on the streets and they know. Beats in the streets and you know. Lil' homie popping pills, broke in the building to see what he can steal. Product of being left in the field, need a vest, rifle, and a shield. Image of a murder, I don't wanna see. Nigga too young to have a wheel. Peace, I'm blessed. Strap, no less. Don't try, it might be your day to die. You can go to rest. The rest, they gon' march in dickies. Got a whole palm full of pickets. Ain't no room for no pickets. Yeah. Niggas still saying fuck 12. Niggas still saying fuck Candace. Niggas still saying fuck Carrot. Yeah, vicariously. Being a kingpin was something that was cool to be. It's therapy. Turning racist to a motherfucking eulogy. Fuck 12! Fuck 12! Beats on the streets and beats on the streets and they know. Beats on the streets and they know. Beats on the streets and you know. Beats in the streets and you know. Beats in the streets and you know.
radical left criminals, thugs.
All right, I got your flavor of choice. Hit you in the face with a Porsche. Jump on the Porsche really early. Boy, they got 30 like Curry. You could get flatline, basically baptized.
So here we are. 2 Chainz gives protest video talking about the beast will be seen. The conversation of a video that they say is now banned by YouTube. The streets are not an easy place to be, and we see the protests. We've been watching for 400 years. They've erected monuments for murderers, erected monuments for those who had no love. They've erected monuments for locations where families were split up. Men and children were sold as slaves, and we're supposed to want these monuments, want to preserve this history. What rationale is this? Whose rationale is this? It couldn't be the rationale of a community that wanted to love itself. And it couldn't be a society that believes that our lives matter, Black lives matter. No, Black lives matter. We're looking for those who want to be anti-racist, those who believe in being anti-racist, those who are able to say they're anti-racist and not look back, but look forward to understanding that the truth has to be told. There's no love for any society that would revel in the past, injustice and atrocities that have been taking place. What country honors those who oppose humanity? Is that a question for America? Does America need to question its humanity when they continue to want to carry flags and nooses and lynch individuals? How could that be possible? And yet we're looking for that seat. We're going to find that place that we deserve to be able to see it. Where and how can we move forward as Americans? We've heard these miscarriages of justice, but why? Why now are those individuals trying to protect and create sanctuaries for individuals who have died long ago, but the pain and the suffering and the grief that they've inflicted should not be in any town square? We should not celebrate their victories. Not only are we losing by this proposition, there's nothing for us to understand. There's nothing good to come from seeing a racist on a horse in bronze who clearly could care less if Black lives matter. There's no great part in our hearts that we're missing by seeing a place that was a slave marketplace. No, Fayetteville, North Carolina, that needs to be moved, destroyed. It's not something for us to learn. It's not a history that's warm in our heart. It's not something we're searching for as it relates to our identity. We just have to look at ourselves and understand how miscarriages of justice, rape, mayhem, of all these atrocities have taken place in and on our community. So why should we want to see statues that don't recommend truth, justice for all? No, that's not what these statues represent, not at all. Instead, we know that these statues represent everything but Black Lives Matter. Instead, they represent where our community is minimized. The rationale for preservation of hatred and hatred history has no place in humanity, has no place in our society. We need to move these things quickly. You can't heal where you're celebrating racists. You can't heal where you're rationalizing racist behavior. Even the omission of us in business shouldn't be tolerated. There shouldn't be a boardroom where we're not represented. That's in all the Fortune 500s. That is in all. We should have a seat at the table, at every single table. 15% is what the minimal goal should be. Industries are making decisions as they see that they have systematically oppressed businessmen and women. Shelf space. It's very important. Sephora says they'll make a commitment, 15%. We need all retailers to want to see economic progress in our community. Black-owned companies making progress, having a seat at the table so that we too can be a part. It is important that we look at ourselves as leaders and know for a fact that there's a place for us in this country that is beyond that is described by people who don't look like you or I. Instead, we should be able to sit and create tables on top of tables for our children, for future generations. This is an impossibility when a society still systemically holds itself in high regard in its hatred, spews hatred, chooses not to wear masks out of hatred, chooses not to be able to allow children to stay safe out of harm's way, and propagates the idea of college kids going back to school during a coronavirus. This is not just an idea. This is something that is put forward on a regular basis, knowing that it'll have a negative impact on our community. We are already in a place where over 50% of all Black and brown people cannot stay home and work from home. Instead, they are on the front line. They are essential workers. They are often underpaid, and yet they are not able to go. For me, it is important that we at the seat of the table take a moment to think about the impacts of all of this. Now, all of the surge is happening. You've got over 29, 30 states surging. What can we do? There have been far too many parties, far too many picnics, far too many get-togethers when the virus has not stopped. Scientific data is all you need to hear about. Going to families, friends, churches, we as a community should know, based on the impact of the first 100,000 individuals to pass from COVID-19, that this is not where we choose to be. This is not that moment. This is a moment for us to look inside. This is a moment for us to study and organize. COVID-19 is a killer, and it doesn't care. It needs a host. It has to have a host in order to live. When you don't wear a mask, you definitely are there. California set a record. The most COVID cases in a single day, 9,500 cases of COVID. Now, we as a Black community must understand that in order to protect ourselves in advance, that we must take this time to understand that our health IQ must increase. We must change our eating habits during this moment. A moment of pause offers a moment of opportunity, an opportunity for all of us to move ourselves forward. This COVID is not going to go away. You will have a COVID-19 Christmas. Get prepared for the long haul. Many are contemplating whether to get a vaccine for COVID-19. Everyone in the world is looking and waiting for a vaccine. We cannot confuse ourselves with the need for trickery. Do not fall for COVID-19 traps. Being impatient, feeling as though you don't have a support system, create one if you don't have one. It is important that our community not allow COVID-19 to destroy any more than it already has. Should we open schools in the fall? What are your thoughts? Would you send your children to college during COVID-19? Would you take a chance and send your only child to college? Send 2 or 3 of your children out, knowing that COVID-19 is still out? Who's going to protect them? Who's going to be able to guarantee you that you can monitor what's going on with your child? Is this the moment for a child to be away from home? COVID-19 begs that question for everyone thinking about bringing their child to college. Will you be dropping the child off at college this year? Not sure that this isn't a moment to pause on all things that would risk and cause you to risk your life. Each of us every day has to take a moment in time to pause. Recently, I interviewed Scarface and asked him about what he was going through. He shared with me the fact that he was now on dialysis 4 days a week. He was not in that type of shape prior to COVID-19. We must look at how we approach this life in this moment. We must understand that the Black community, fathers, mothers, uncles, and promoters and business people, be careful on inviting people to COVID traps. Now, there are emotional moments that we want to go and be with our family and friends. Weddings still being announced. We're feeling lonely. We just need to go out and have a drink. Restaurants, high rates of COVID infection at bars, at restaurants, not having a meal out and leaving or taking it to go, but sitting down, drinking, relaxing, taking your mask off. And this is an airborne disease. You're having a loud conversation you can't hear. You're spewing, or someone you just met is laughing with you because they too felt cramped and needed to get out. But what really gets out is that asymptomatic sprayer spraying and spreading COVID in a way that it becomes difficult to track because they're not staying long enough for anybody to know who and how you actually contracted COVID. Instead, you made it to 5 friends, 2 or 3 spots that you can't remember because you had that 3 or 4 or 5 drinks. You walked for a minute, waited till you sobered up and got home, but your memory wasn't as sober as you are when you got home and woke up the next day and wondered exactly where you were and how many people you spoke to. This is what COVID-19 can do on a bad day that you go out and go to a bar, have fun, drink too much, can't remember all of the things that you've done, wake up, and 2 weeks later, you infect someone that you live with. It is very, very, very important that we think about how we approach what we're doing. It is very, very, very important that we pivot to what we know is our truth. The science is important. So know that you must pay attention to the science. COVID-19 is scientific. It is a health concern. And we must understand that. Every time that we move forward outside our door, that we risk our life. Every time that we go to visit a relative without a mask, we can consider that we could be doing some type of criminal act. Let me see exactly what you have on your mind as it relates to the need for change in our community. Because we need to change exactly what we see in the truth of COVID. I couldn't believe the pool party. Couldn't believe the community suffering. I can't believe that they're not allowing us to see our loved ones and say goodbye. It's a moving period. It takes a lot of courage to not feel lost, to not feel as though you're alone. But you don't have to feel that way. You can know inside that you're not. Stay safe. Stay close. Stay inside. Do not risk your life for 10 minutes or 2 hours of fun that will cause you or others to suffer. The surge is because we opened early. The surge is also based on the fact that we elected not to pay attention to our own community. we have to be responsible also for our health. What can we learn from COVID-19 about our own health, care, well-being, self-care? It is this moment that we have all been waiting for. It's not going to come. You're not going to get away from COVID. You're going to have a COVID Christmas, probably a COVID Black History Month. And yet, we can find hope in all of this. We can know that this uprising has caused the entire world to come and understand that we're not taking anymore. So, COVID should cause a reset inside for everyone who is in this moment. You have to take the time to move forward in knowledge of self and understanding that each and every day that comes your way, you can make a difference in this community in ways that our forefathers never thought possible. You can actually carry messages to millions of people. You can actually entune your thoughts of success and what it takes to survive. Tips on what you do on a boring day when you're sitting at home. Authors that you've met, that you want to introduce friends and family to. Take the time to read 4 or 5 of those books that have been props in your backdrop. Instead, make them part of what you read to your friends and your family. Zoom calls, prayer calls, all of these things are waiting for you, and you can reset during COVID-19. You can get certified during COVID-19 to do something new that will add dollars to your economy. But do not be confused. There are those who want to bait you out of your home. There are those who want you to step out and actually participate. Let's look at Michigan and what it looked like. And then maybe we can go from there to Stone Mountain just to see the mood of this country. Michigan. How could it be possible? Thousands of people next to each other, no social distancing, ignoring social distancing, and then go to a gas station, get on a bus without a mask, become a spreader to a Black and brown essential worker who doesn't have a choice but to go to work, to feed their family, to make a difference, to be the resource that their family and the only resource their family has. And yet, we see who it is, having fun, or so they think, beating Corona, or so they think, being able to ignore science, or so they think, and yet, Black and brown workers will be affected by those who ignore these scientific facts that COVID is surging. It is surging across our country. So these invitations to parties are, killer parties. They might just be that, the killer parties. Did you go to a killer party and survive will be the question. Were you at a killer party, DJing perhaps, and not wearing a mask? Yes, we've got to think about these moments. Yes, we want to know how we can approach this society. And yes, we must show up. We must show up for our community. We must show up for our loved ones. We must show up. But can you believe that they chose not to social distance? The armed group at Stone Mountain on July 4th condemned systematic racism, overt racism. Get ready. Here is what our community did to represent themselves at Stone Mountain.
To protect the Black nation. Hundreds of protesters, heavily armed and dressed in black, brought their passionate plea to Stone Mountain Park today, demanding the carving of Confederate figures be removed from the mountain. The group marched from the city of Stone Mountain to the park, which was used to be a popular gathering spot for the KKK. Park police shut down the park to other guests and escorted the group in and out of the park. The police told us the group was peaceful and did not cause any issues.
It's a public park, state park. We have these protests on both sides of the issue from time to time. We respect people's First Amendment right to exercise those rights. We understand the sensitivities of the issue here at the park and the dark paths, so we respect that and allow them to come in. And as long as it's peaceful, which it has been, then that's fine.
We're also told no arrests were made during that protest. The park will be open again tomorrow.
How can you call something with a dark past a good place to be? How can you continue to fund a place that has a dark past? How is it possible that a place with a dark past is still being funded? What is the rationale used to abuse humanity by having a place with a dark past still recognized and sponsored? Why do they have to justify the attack on our humanity by erecting deities with a dark past? Yes, Barbara Fields, Albany, how are you? Yes, we have to take care of ourselves. How do you suggest we do that? We know it's serious, but how do we charge? How do we move forward, Barbara? How do we take care of ourselves? What's the rationale for taking care of ourselves in 2020? What exactly must we say? What exactly must we do? Now, obviously, the brothers and sisters on the 4th of July, which is not our 4th of July, on the 4th of July, decided to demonstrate peacefully, banishing their rights to bear arms and also express themselves. So here we are in a scenario where we're working hard each and every day to be the best we can for our families. And yet society wants to preserve places with a dark past. Why do they continue to justify the behavior that is murderous, the behavior that spews hatred, the behavior that caused grief, despair, poverty on a community, on one group, laws written for one group, Black Americans? Why do we want this society with a dark past? Why must we tolerate the dark past? He was so comfortable saying that this is a place with a dark past. He should be saying, we've removed the dark past and we now have erected hope. Maybe just a smiley face on the mountain, but not a place where crosses were burned, not a place where murder took place, not a dark place. Let the light shine in truth and love. This is a moment to have truth. This is a moment to have love. We're demanding our seat at the table. We're demanding that we are able to at least know that the community has an option to stand up, which we are. Far too many deals have been given to us that are not deals. We're not going for any more shenanigans. We want our community to be respected and loved. We have taken time to move our community forward. It is important that we take the time to move the community forward. America deserves it. Well, I have a guest this evening for a seat at the table. I would like for you all to know that the intellectual capacity and training of our minds requires that we read. It is important that Sergeant Major Craig Keith, retired from the Army, we want us to be able to understand his message for our community and understand the culture that he can share with us that we may not know or have ever experienced without his great storytelling. We all deserve a seat at the table. And we want to make that happen today for you by bringing today Sergeant Major Craig Keith. How are you? Turn on your camera and your microphone. There we go. Now he just, hey. All right, now you got to unmute yourself and you're almost there. How are you, Sergeant Major?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, no, we always like the intellectual and the individual that encapsulates our culture in a moment so we can actually learn and get an insightful perspective and an honest perspective. Why don't you share the title of your book and why you wrote this book for us, if you would, here at the seat at the table?
Sure. I wrote Serving to Lead because as I looked across the nation, I've served in many multiple platforms, from the military to playing professional football to now in Hollywood. I realized that there were different leadership philosophies and psychology associated with that. And with the understanding that everybody needs a different leadership style at this time. You know, back in the day when I came into the military in 1984, I came in with the Vietnam era. It was just one way. It was my way or the highway. So what I said now, understanding now that you have younger people in the workforce, it's very important to make leaders understand that you need to be a hybrid. You need to be a part of a participative leader, transformational leader, as well as a authoritative leader when need be, and also a leader that understands people's psychology.
Well, that's heavy, knowing people's psychology. And transformative leader. Why don't you walk me through each of those stages so that an individual can understand? Because leadership is so important for all of us, and we need to know the various types. So that was a great insight, that there are various types so that people can use this strategically in their businesses.
When you talk about authoritative, right? You know, I believe that the word is divided into two. Part of the world is our followers. And in those followers, you do have CEOs, senior vice presidents, vice presidents, directors, leaders, you know, that are all successful. But there's also that 13% that are actually the type A personalities, the one that makes it and breaks it, that actually do that. So with that understanding, I realized that, you know, those leaders need to know how to go back and pick others up until they evolve into becoming that leader that they're going to be one day. But right now, everybody isn't on the same playing field, you know, as that 13th percentile. So, What I've seen in my travels is that you have a lot of people in leadership positions, but they're more managers than leaders. And there's a difference between managers and leaders. Managers can manage a process or a system, but a leader can lead that organization to success, to reach their vision, their mission statement, so on and so forth.
Serving to lead, would you say that everyone has the ability to lead?
Absolutely. I mean, some leaders are born, it's innate inside of them. They're just born with that DNA from their father's father's father. But I think that leaders can be coached, taught, and then mentored to becoming a pretty proficient leader in their own right.
When you talk about transformative, because many people probably don't use the word often, so you put it out there. How do you become a transformative leader?
Well, when you understand that the mission, the target, if you would, it moves, right? So you have to be connected to what's going on in the world, what's going on in the culture, and you may have to move your brand to another level, or you may have to pivot your organization to be able to sustain their mission, doing, like, for instance, COVID-19 right now. You may have to go to telework or different things that you allow to happen, which you wouldn't have done it in the past. So you have to be a person able to make the appropriate adjustments as it pertains to the society and the things that are around you, the current events that are actually happening in life, real life.
Pivot. You use the word pivot.
Yes, sir.
How important is it for a leader to be able to embrace pivoting?
I think it's very important. You have to be able to embrace that, and you have to be able to differentiate as well. Some organizations are so large, if you were going to come into that organization, you couldn't just turn that organization because they've been that same the way it is for 100 years, right? So you have to understand, as a new guy or new leader to an organization, a pivot would be received a lot better than you actually trying to turn it at once. So it's always going to be a pivot necessary in a personal life as well as a organizational, institutional business model.
How much of this book represents you?
All of it. It's 100% me. It's things that I've recognized throughout my life. In the military, the priorities are this: it's the mission, my people, and then myself. The sergeant major eats last. But as I've seen other different cultures within a culture, like in the organizations that I deal with now, it's myself, then the mission, then my people, which is why you can't get loyalty out of people. And people don't understand why people move from company to company, because they don't understand serving to lead. You don't make that person feel like they are part of that company's future, or that you are part of their future success.
You mentioned mission, and I think that's a good word. But for people who are running business organizations, how do they define their mission? Because many people may not know how to pick a mission, or, have been in situations like yourself where it was really outlined and defined. How does a business person figure out their mission?
First of all, what is your vision? What industry are you trying to get into? What are you trying to do? And your mission becomes what you're trying to operationalize your vision. So your mission becomes the how to make that happen. How do you service that community? How do you make this situation better for somebody else?
So when you were in the military, I'm sure you had plenty of missions. What are some of the examples that you have that you learned during the military that people can apply to their missions?
Oh, so many things. I mean, just for instance, get ready for combat. It's all about coach, teacher, mentor in combat, right? There are multiple stages of getting ready for that. It takes a year out for any organization to get ready to be able to sustain in such an austere environment, right? So it's very important that your training is very important. because at the end of the day, if you're not properly trained, you know, what you have to do won't be second nature to your target. So it's very important that your training is up to speed on what it is that you have to do. So I believe in the book, I speak a lot about repetition. The more you do something, the more it becomes second nature, the more you cannot think so hard about that thing. It's just second nature to you. And all of a sudden that saved lives. When you don't have to think about something, your reaction, actually makes something happen. You just saved a life.
Now I guess you're talking, because if you save a life, it might be the life of your business. When you talk about pivoting and understanding during COVID to move fast enough, you could actually save your business. That's a good part. How would you describe your leadership style, the one that you have now?
My leadership style is I would say it's a hybrid, right? I know when someone needs an extra nudge, that will be a piece of authoritative, just a piece of it. And once I understand that they understand, and then I will be a participative leader, which means I will join in and help you doing what you're doing, which gets you the most respect. When people see that you can do the thing that you're telling them to do, respect comes, 100% with that. So, and then I will help them with their deliverables as far as, the win, even if you have something you have to do, to make sure you meet that time hack that we have established. If you can't meet that time hack, I teach you to come back and say, hey, I'm gonna need 30 more minutes, need an hour to finish that. So you have accountability.
Really? So that's how you create accountability. That seems like a big word that many people run away from, the whole value proposition of being accountable to anybody. I just want to do it my way. But as a leader, you say you participate. When you're participating, how is a person growing based on how you participate?
I think number one, it relaxes them because people really like when you do something that you tell them to do. A lot of managers will tell you to do something that they won't even do. So, but real leaders roll their sleeves up, put their boots on, their helmet, and get in there with their people. And when you do that, you're talking about, and I'm gonna use this word a lot tonight, loyalty. That's very important. It's not, in leadership, it's not do as I say, it's do as I will do or have done.
I like that, do what I do or what I've done. I get it. So you get it done by helping to, now does this create trust? Does trust play a role in leadership?
Absolutely. That's one of the 7 values. Absolutely. Trust is very important, right? A lot of people ask me, how is it that you have soldiers that will run into enemy territory up a hill where the enemy has an advantage on you based on the that high platform that they're on? Why would they do that? Because they trust you. You only tell them to do that because we really can truly take this hill. We really can truly take this country and be the best army in the world. We really can do that thing.
Now, you said there's 7 principles?
Values, 7 values, yeah. Integrity, selfless service, respect, those things, and trust.
Why does integrity play a role as a leader?
Say again?
Why does integrity play a role as a leader?
It connects to trust. It connects to trust because if I ask you to do something and on one particular mission that's very important to the overall mission, and you tell me you can do that mission and you go out there and you fail, you just made the whole mission fail because of you. Back to that word accountability. So that's why training is very important, that everybody, if there's a 7-spoke wheel, why everybody in that wheel, all 7 spokes can do their job and do their job to standard. Because I need to trust that you can get the mission done, and this will not be a failure.
So when you began on this journey of thinking about producing a book, how'd you come up with your title? And what motivated you to put a book together for the community based on your experiences?
I came up with the title because I understand that most people go to school to get this education because the world, society has told us, these are the things, if you check these blocks, this will make you successful. So most people go out to check these blocks to become successful so that they can get this high paying job with a big title. So, and most of all of that is about their self. So I put serving to lead because it's an oxymoron. Nobody goes into this wanting to be this big time CEO of this company to take care and serve others, their subordinates. So being in the military and things of that nature, I believe I've seen so much loyalty, I've gained so much trust, so much respect by making sure I understand Maslow's hierarchy of needs, meaning I understand how each person wants their future to be. So I'm contributing my job, what I do, to making sure that they're happy about their future. I'm providing them a good snapshot of where their life is going to be. You know, it's my responsibility to make sure that I raise up my replacements and they'll feel that way and feel good about that.
So when you came to that moment of service, because service seems pretty key when you talk about the military, it is a real service. You put it all on the line at one moment or another. Why did you elect to join?
Well, I joined the military because long time ago, my father left, so it left my mom and I, and my daughter, and my sister homeless. So, you know, it was an honorable way that I felt gave me the opportunity to go to military and to send my check back home to my mom, which allowed her to be more safe and more sound because my mom and I back in the day were homeless. So it was my opportunity to send my check back. And I knew the military provided, you know, a place to stay and a meal card, which we could go into the dining facility and have a free meal. And that's all I needed as a 17-year-old kid. So, you know, and I always wanted to serve something, or should I say, work for an organization that was bigger than me. So I didn't mind dying for my country. That's how you want to go, you know, for your culture, for your nation, fighting for your nation and your soldiers around you that you've trained.
So what'd that feel like when you would send your check home to your mother? And obviously it sounded fun eating in a mess hall, but she had to be proud.
Yes, sir. She still is. And it felt great. It felt great being able to provide at 17 years old. And then there was a bitter taste in my mouth because I had a couple of football scholarships. I was a McDonald All-American in high school as well, in Alabama and Mississippi, and I didn't take those scholarships. But it felt good. It made me proud as a young man being able to do that.
And what did she say to you that you remember to this day?
Well, she actually didn't want me to do it. She thought I was throwing everything away because I would have been a first generation college, you know, kid. But I promised to her that I would get my education. Don't worry. You know, my philosophy, if it's to be, it's up to me. So I was going to do that. But she eventually signed because, you know, they wouldn't let a 17-year-old in the military until, you know, unless they had your parental, you know, signature. So she eventually signed and I went in and, you know, the rest is kind of history. But it felt great though.
And then you say you played football.
Yes, sir.
Where was this?
Well, eventually what happened in 1991, as I was in the military, NFL Europe started in Europe. Each NFL team sent 10 players over to Europe, Frankfurt, Germany, Barcelona, Spain, and had a few teams in the States, Barcelona Drag, you know, and London Monarchs. And it took place in Europe and America as well. So I got drafted. I went to a tryout camp and I got drafted. I ended up running a 4.3740 and had a 42-inch vertical jump, and I got drafted while in the military. So, which made me one of the unique people because up to that point, it was only two people before me had ever signed a professional football contract, a professional athletic contract. That was David Robinson, the Admiral basketball player, San Antonio Spurs, and Napoleon McCallum, Los Angeles Raiders at the time, and myself. So I think we're still the only three people who have done that to this day.
So you got a lot of firsts.
Say again?
You have a lot of firsts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've been blessed a lot. Yes. A lot of blessings.
No, but you must have a good spirit because you participate I mean, it's one thing to say I've been blessed. It's another thing to really answer the call of, to step up for the blessing. You got to make a move. So in this book, you talk about service, you talk about these key values, you value your family. What are the other things that leaders should value that you see many don't?
I think leaders should be more selfless. I see a lot of selfish leaders, like I spoke about earlier. I think that leaders need to get out of themselves and start thinking about their people, because that's truly how the world works. That's truly how karma works. That's truly how you do get your blessings. I've found out that the more I give to others is the more that I receive. So, which is also part of the motivating factor for this book. I'm trying to tell people life can be easier if you stop being so selfish.
So how'd you get the book done? Now, what was the whole process of putting your book together? Because it's not like everybody's book. You've done a million things. I don't even know how you got it all in one book.
I'll tell you, first of all, it took a while, right? Because I'm not a natural born writer, being transparent with you. I said to myself, I had read some stuff on Google and things of that nature. I said to myself, I'm going to close my door at Disney Studio Lot at 5 o'clock every Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm going to either write something down or I'm going to record something. And I did that for 6 months. Then I started trying to frame it like, okay, this could be a chapter. This could be a title of a chapter. And lo and behold, eventually started to shape itself. Then I started adding body to it and putting things in proper context and shifting and moving around. And eventually it morphed into what we have today, Serving to Lead, this product right here.
So you say on the Disney lot?
Yes, I'm at Burbank Studio in Disney, Hollywood, yes.
Hanging out with Mickey. What's going on? What's going on?
Right, I'm a theatrical film distributor at Disney.
Okay. So what does that mean?
I'll say it like this. Most people know about pre-production, production, and post-production, and puts a movie in a can, but not many people know that it takes that fourth leg, that fourth arm, which is the person that negotiates terms and conditions with exhibition, i.e. AMC, Regal, Cinemark, and your mid-majors, as far as how they handle the intellectual property. Meaning you will have that film in your theater this many weeks, this particular format, 3D, 2D, PLF, whatever that is. And this will be our MLA, Master License Agreement, which is, the percentage of rate based on the national gross is how we charge for that thing. But so pretty much I'm the negotiator. I am to films and movies for Disney what a stockbroker is on Wall Street, if you will.
Well, no, I'm gonna let you have that. I think we'll just let you have that.
Say again?
I say I'm gonna let you have that. You say if I will. No, I'm gonna let you have it. I like the fact that you're doing that. That the more insights you get, the more I'll learn. See, I like that it's a new methodology. Obviously, I'm just intrigued by the genius and the experiences that you represent for so many who need to be inspired. I mean, it's you've seen the world, obviously, because you say you're in Germany, so you've seen the world. When you read the book, what is your favorite chapter now that you've put this book together?
Believe it or not, out of all the things I read in that I wrote in that book, chapter 1, I introduced professional score. I come in contact often with people that are depressed because that organization, that corporation didn't promote them, or didn't give them that bonus, things of that nature, and they're dejected. So I began to look at myself, and I came up with the concept of you need to add who you are as an individual, plus what your job is, and that's who your score is. So I give a comparison with everybody knows what a credit score is, based on your debt to income ratio, based on how much job income you have, based on your expenditures per month, whatever it means. That's what your credit score is. If it's 700, 750, 800, you can get anything. So I say I'm speaking to people who might have been failed by leadership. The leadership didn't give them inspiration, didn't provide the guidance they needed. They didn't, help them with the things they needed help with. So I'm telling people, don't let nobody else give you your professional score. Score yourself. Go to a trade school. Go get you a bachelor's degree. Go get your associate degree. Go get your master's degree. Go volunteer in the community. Go to a protest. Do something like that. All that adds 50, 100 points, 150, 200 points to your professional score. So you can score yourself and add to your score so that no one individual or no corporation is telling you who you're not.
Self-score. I think that's great, to self-score.
Yes, sir.
The thing I really appreciate that more than anything is it requires that you measure your success. If you're not scoring, you know why, because you chose not to do something. So it really seems very obvious, the mechanics that you put in there from the beginning, that you're responsible for your destiny. What have you learned about yourself in putting this book together that others will glean once they read it?
Well, if you haven't noticed by now, I'm a pretty humble guy. My mom always told me to be humble. As my team pushed me out there further, what I'm learning about myself is that I have a responsibility to share my story, because I've always felt that I'm just a small town country boy from Alabama. And my story was just this, I only done the same thing that everybody else would do if put in those positions. So, but now, as my team began to put me in front of important people such as yourself, I'm beginning to realize that my story can make a difference, that I can provide inspiration to people. I can motivate in people. I can give people a helping hand, just help somebody up. To realize that it doesn't matter what somebody's told you in the past. You could do anything you put your mind to. Don't believe the naysayers. Put a plan together and make it happen, and find somebody to help you make it happen. And I've always taught that if you're the smartest person in your circle, then find a different circle, because you're in the wrong circle. So and last but not least, I was taught a long time ago by Vietnam veterans. If you get to where I am now, and you look to your left and look to your right, and if you're by yourself and you didn't help anybody up there with you, you've done it wrong. So this is my attempt to make sure that I continue to do it right and uplift people.
So describe your process of getting published, because most people, they dream, they say they're gonna get a book. You shared with us how you created discipline in writing a book. Obviously every Tuesday and Thursday at 5. I mean, that's straight up discipline. And now you've got to go through the process. It's done. We got a manuscript. What was the process for you to bring your book to life?
My process obviously was finding people that were smarter than me in those particular areas. Like having somebody understands how to load your book up on Amazon. But before then, somebody to do word check, spell check, someone to actually, put your book together, selecting pictures for the book. Because at one point I was a little apprehensive about putting photos in the book because I didn't want to make it seem like a picture book. However, someone told me, no, these pictures are very important to your book, because no one's going to believe that you're the age that you are, and you spent 32 years in the military. You went to 6 combat tours, 50 wars and decorations. You played professional football. You're in Hollywood. You're an author, and nobody's not going to believe that you're not 82 years old. So it'd be very important if you can capture that. You can show where you went to 50 countries. You can show yourself in Berlin, at the CCF. You can show yourself at the Leaning Tower of Pisa, in Italy. You can show yourself standing on the London Bridge. You need to show that. So again, just listening to people smarter than me, but finding someone who knows how to do those things. And I consider myself now a Googleologist. So I just Google everything and look for people and pick up the phone and call them. And I talk to them. In some cases, you have to, you have to pay them to give you the information. But, again, if it's to be, it's meant to be.
Yeah, Les Brown says information costs, but information pays.
Exactly.
I'm not sure that you would appear to be 82 years old, but it is obvious that you have served an incredible God to give the level of story that you have. I'm glad that we had this opportunity to meet. Most individuals don't have so much experience, and I'm not certain we're in the moment of humility. I wouldn't say we're in the moment of bragging, but we are in the moment of a loud cadence, for someone like you. So much louder cadence. I don't think
Thank you.
I'm sharing with you personally, giving somebody in the business, we're not in the moment of humble pie. The young, you won't connect with the young people like that. You won't connect with the young people who you'll transform if he just gets through your first chapter. He's gonna want to see, and that person was right. He's gonna want to see you on the London Bridge, because it's hard. Take me there if you've been there, because if not, you can't tell me about it.
Right.
And so that experience factor, and we're at that point where it's a much louder cadence. Sound off 1, 2, and then it's the 50 countries, and then people can go. I really
sound like you know something about the military.
I've lived my dad was an Air Force pilot, so.
Military brat. Okay, respect.
Yeah, no, I lived on military bases, lived in Panama, saw all of Latin America and South America. So it's been a good life. I believe in the military. I believe the military doesn't advertise enough to our community. That's my big thing, because our young people don't understand what it instills, and they miss that opportunity. And it's not a popular place, but it's so formative and transformative that we're often missed, and people miss that moment of being able to get the instruction and the investment,
right,
and the guarantees. There's a lack of. You're not gonna be hungry while you're there if they still got chow hall.
They still got chow hall.
You can just go and the commissary's there every day. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to leave. It's very self-contained, and it creates a whole self-contained culture. So, no, I appreciate for all of you who are out there. I hope that you will definitely go out and pick up while you're in COVID-19, serving to lead. That right?
Yes, sir. Serving to lead.
Serving to lead. It'll make a difference in your life. We at Rolling Out want to thank you so much for coming. Why don't you give us a positive word before we close out tonight?
Sure. I'd just like to say that if anybody's out there that is doubting yourself, doubting your situation, doubting your circumstances, stop doubting yourself. Just put a plan in place and figure out how to operationalize your plan. And figure out, don't let resources be the reason why you stay in your current situation. Make a move or pivot, as we said earlier, or in some cases, you have to completely turn, but do something different. What do they say? If you expect different results by doing the same thing, that doesn't make you a smart person. So do something different, but be aggressive. My personal philosophy is, when in doubt, lean forward. Go get it.
Yeah. Well, we thank you for that. I want all of us to go out and get serving to lead. Sergeant Major, we salute you. We appreciate the service and your dedication, not only to the country, but to our Black community, the difference that you're making by being an example and a lighthouse for those who may not be able to see without your light. Thank you so much. We appreciate you for coming on. A seat at the table.
Thank you, Monson. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much.
It's 9 o'clock.
Have a nice evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, go out, check out the book. It's real important. It's important that we have lighthouses like Sergeant Major so that you can know it's possible. I'm Munson Seed. This has been A Seat at the Table. Good night.